When was the last time you surprised yourself? And no, I don't mean looking in the mirror right after waking up. I mean completing a goal you never thought you could reach or discovering a dream you didn't know you had. That's exactly what happened to me, and it all started with a choice I'd never thought I'd make. If you know the story of Rapunzel, you know she was a lost princess locked away in a tower by her quote-unquote mother, dreaming of the day she'd finally see the lanterns. Well, my story isn't quite like that. I didn't dream of leaving my tower. I liked my tower. It was safe, familiar, risk-free. I was in my last semester of college when I was presented with an opportunity to teach overseas for 2 years. No way, I thought. The idea of living in another state scared me. How was I supposed to survive in another country? But after a lot of praying, much consideration, and conversations with my parents, I said yes. I figured, at the very least, it'd be a chance to finally learn Spanish. Something I'd always wanted, but never really pursued. The moment I stepped off the plane, everything felt unfamiliar. Spanish signs, Spanish announcements, Spanish everything. I walked up to customs, terrified I'd have to explain myself in Spanish, but thankfully, the officer spoke English. Outside, I was greeted by smoggy air and the smell of tacos. Street vendors were selling mango slices and tortas. Yep, we're definitely not in Texas anymore. I was part of a missionary training program called Avance, along with 2 other girls I'd gone to college with. My placement was at an elementary school where I taught Kinder 1 and 2. Unfortunately, between full-time teaching and the responsibilities of the program, I was constantly stretched. I lived with a host family about 1.5 hours from the city, which meant long commutes, total immersion, and figuring out public transportation in a language I was still learning. That first year was a roller coaster, full of culture shock, exhaustion, and slow, sometimes painful growth. But over time, I adapted. Like Rapunzel dancing freely in the village square, I found joy in the chaos. I found confidence in the unfamiliar. Year 2 brought big changes. I left the program, moved into my own apartment, but decided to keep teaching. Without Spanish classes or weekly trainings, I was more independent. As my 2-year contract came to a close, I started thinking about the future. But something in me wasn't ready to leave. So for my 3rd year in Mexico, I shifted into a new ministry and took on a role as an activities coordinator at a local hostel. An opportunity that connected me with people from across the globe. In May, I left Mexico with a heart full of reflection and an experience that would stay with me forever. Unlike me, Rapunzel already had a dream. But sometimes it doesn't start out that way. Sometimes you don't even know what your dream is until you leave the tower. I didn't plan to live in Mexico for 3 years, but once I stepped out of my comfort zone, I realized maybe this was the dream all along.